The Falcons have had an interesting offseason. First, they acquire Arthur Smith. Dean Pease comes out of retirement, and then they mutually agree to part ways. They trade Julio Jones. I don't know what to think of this Falcons team, but I tried to do the best that I could, so we're going to deep dive, do a breakdown of the Falcons roster. I'm going to give you my projected starters, and then a prediction at the end of the video. What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So without further ado, let's go ahead, let's get in, but don't forget to hit that thumbs up if you appreciate the content, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love the football discourse. If I got anything wrong, or you just want to spread some hate, because I love comment section. Yay! Looking at the roster, Arthur Smith. So what does he bring to this Falcons offense? Well, it's very similar to Kyle Shanahan. He runs a West Coast system that's very big on the outside zone blocking scheme. But I mean, with Arthur Smith, he kind of puts his own little stank on it with, well, of course, the inside blocking. He runs a lot of downhill rushing concepts, right? But he also had the luxury of a Derrick Henry to do that. I don't know if anyone wants to make the argument that they have someone of that caliber or of that style of brutality on this roster. I would just have to say you were wrong if you're trying to come at me. Mike Davis ain't that. That just ain't Mike Davis' quality. He just ain't that. So I don't know how exactly to expect this offense to really look when it comes to the running game. Maybe they opt for more of the outside zone. Well, I don't know if they keep a lot of the downhill running, but maybe they do. Maybe, perhaps, possibly. But let's go ahead. Let's talk about the roster now that we kind of got an idea of what they may be doing. But I think we're going to see a lot of two tight end sets, especially with Julio gone. Ton of two tight end sets. Kyle Pitts, I think he's going to be everywhere from the outside to the slot to line it up in line. And then it's like they have Hayden Hurst there too, good receiving tight end. But it's like they don't have like a very good blocking tight end. Like Hurst is fine in his own rights. Pitts has gotten better, but that's not what they're on the team to do. That's why they brought in like I guess Lee Smith. Really, that's about it. So I mean, I think we will see more two tight end sets by virtue that if you consider Kyle Pitts just a tight end, but I think he's for the most part we'll still see a lot of maybe 11 personnel. I don't know. Maybe they use Kevin Smith in a lot of different ways outside of just being a fullback. I mean, they kind of did that with Anthony Ferkser in Tennessee. So I don't know. That'll be interesting. But when it comes to the running game, obviously the offensive line's a big part. And parts of this offensive line kind of still feels in, how should I put this? In the air. Jake Matthews, great. That's solid. Outside of that, Chris Lindstrom, great. But I feel like after that, a lot of things are still up for grabs. Specifically, we can start with the right tackle position. Like Caleb McGarry, he hasn't really exactly developed the way that maybe the Falcons anticipated when they drafted him at the end of the first round in, was it 2019 at this point? But yeah, like it's not like he's been terrible. I would say he's been maybe average. So kind of year 3, you kind of get the idea of who these guys are when it comes to the tackle position. But I really think he's going to be pushed by Matt Gono, or Gono, however you say his last name. Because I've read a lot of good things about him when it comes to how the Falcons coaching staff feels about him through the minicamp. So I expect him to be in the mix for a couple of these positions, especially when it comes to the left guard position. Because that really should be up for grabs. Like I think I would maybe give the edge to Jalen Mayfield, but I could easily see Josh Andrews, who his time in New York wasn't spectacular. He wasn't that good. But I imagine he's going to be competing for that spot. Like Willie Wright, this guy I'm very unfamiliar with. Can't really speak too much on him. But it'll be interesting who will man up that left guard spot. I got my money on Mayfield, but it could be Josh Andrews potentially. And then of course the center position, they just drafted Drew Dalman in the third round out of Stanford. I don't know how much faith they have in Matt Hennessy. I think Hennessy, I think he'll pick up his play this year. I was pretty high on Hennessy, and I expect him to be better. He was a bit of an undersized guy, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they kick, because he has played guard in the past, so maybe they could kick him to guard. I don't know. It'll be interesting what they do with this offensive line, because it's going to be extremely important for them to get the running game going. If they're going to incorporate a lot of that play action, then you at least have to have the suspicion that they might be able to successfully run the football, It's interesting that they label Cordell Patterson a running back here. I mean, he's a guy that can do a lot of different things. Return, receiver, running back. So it'll be interesting to see what his role on the offense is. But let's be honest, man. It's Matt Ryan. This man's going to throw the ball a ton. And outside of Calvin Ridley, the receiving position is a huge question mark. That's why I could see Kyle Pitts maybe starting opposite on the outside of Ridley, or maybe slipping into the slot. Because who do you really have on this roster that's going to step up? Russell Gage was mostly used as a slot guy. I've read some good things about Christian Blake, but still, for the most part, a guy that really hasn't done anything. You could say the same thing for the rest of this roster. I mean, maybe we should see Tajay Sharp get in the mix here. Frank Darby, I think, is a bit raw. He might be more of a return man at the beginning of his career, but he's a guy that's going to be good off the screen. Antonio Nunn is more of your possession guy that's kind of yards after the catch. Not a lot of speed to him. But without Julio Jones, this offense, it's a big question mark for me. It's a big question mark. Even there ain't no way Felipe Franks himself is the quarterback of the future. They bring in Hawkins out of Louisville, who's more of this home run threat, but he's a smaller back. I don't expect to see him on the field a ton. I just don't feel good about this offense whatsoever. And I'm a little more optimistic about the defense when it comes to Dean Pease, what he does. He likes to do multiple fronts. Normally, you would say the base is 3-4, but it's multiple fronts. You're going to be seeing a lot of different formations here. They play a lot of off coverage. I mean, with his time with the Titans, I mean, they almost played exclusively cover 2. They would try to disguise it with cover 1, but they were for the most part playing cover 2. They would go into cover 1 when they would tend to blitz, because he's huge on blitzing his defensive backs. So I mean, I think there might be a case to be made that we might see more safeties on the field than actual cornerbacks, just because of depth. I guess let's start there with the cornerback and safety position, because at corner, you got AJ Terrell, and it's and then what? Really, and then what? I assume that they bring in Fabian Moreau to compete with Isaiah Oliver and Kendall Sheffield to be who's on the outside. I think Moreau's a better player than both those guys. So I really think it's maybe Sheffield and Oliver competing for the slot. They also drafted Darren Hall, who's more of a slot guy. In the league, he will be more of a slot guy. So I guess he's competing for snaps there as well. Even Avery Williams out of Houston, he doesn't have great size. He's going to end up being in the slot. So realistically, we might just have 2 corners on the field, maybe 3 safeties, or maybe they go full 3 corners, 3 safeties. Because going to the safety position, drafting Richie Grant was huge. A guy that can play in the slot, play in the box, and he can play deep. His processing skills, top notch. The dude's just a good football player. Next to him, that's a big question mark for me too. You got Duron Harmon, who's more I feel more of he's better. He's a guy you want to sprinkle in to the offense here. The Jalen Hawkins is a dude I was pretty high on coming out of Cal, And last year he saw a little bit of play, but still might end up just being a box guy. Eric Harris, however you feel about him, like he's good depth, but like really they got a lot of depth in safety position. They bring in TJ Green, who's kind of a journeyman at this point. Marcus Murphy, probably on the practice squad, very like stupid athletic, but like still kind of learning the finer parts of playing safety. So yeah, like I think realistically, I'd rather have maybe like Harmon, Hawkins, and Grant, and maybe even Harris on the field over maybe like an Oliver or Sheffield, in the slot. It's going to be very interesting. Like this secondary is huge question mark to me. Richie Grant is a guy that you can blitz, so maybe they get him involved in that. Like I think there's gonna it'll be interesting for the most part. I think the front seven is probably the best part about this team right now, and that's not really saying much. Like the more I look at this team, the less high I'm on them, especially with Julio gone. Like how that offense, you really need to really step up. But linebacker core, I'm in love with linebacker core. Oluokun really kind of came out last year as proved to be a very good coverage linebacker. Deion Jones, we know what he's capable of. Stupid good athlete. Michael Walker, I think those guys are going to see plenty of time on the field. They also bring in Errol Thompson, maybe a guy that makes the practice squad, but he's another guy with some decent athleticism. But the defensive front, like I said, we're going to see multiple different fronts here. It's not exclusively just like, it's got 3-4 elements, but it's really like, I think they're going to have like two interior and then two guys rushing the passer, which will be weird, strangely interesting how they work this out. Cause outside of Dante Fowler, who they got rushing the passer? Like Steven Means showed bits here and there, but even John Kaminsky, is a guy that's really, he's kind of a tweener. He was pretty good as an interior rusher, but sometimes they would line him up over the tackle or outside, and he'd succeed in that regard. Marlin Davidson looking to have a healthy year and maybe emerge. Tyler Davidson provides some depth on the interior. They got interesting guys, and I mean Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett is one of the best at his position. Dude's amazing. But like, who's gonna be the other guy rushing the passer here? Like they bring in Taquan Graham, who's really just a run stuffer out of Texas. Jonathan Boyard, who really after a pretty good, I think it was like rookie or sophomore season in Chicago, never really emerged. This just leaves a lot left to be desired. There's Ogundenji, who I'm pretty high on, but I like him better as like a stand-up edge setter than an actual pass rusher. So maybe he gets involved, but like they're really going to rely on, I mean, okay, they got Mingo too, but let's be honest. It's going to be interesting how, like that's the word, interesting. I like how this defense looks. This defense feels far and away from being actually a quality defense, which, man, shucks. Let's just talk about my starters. All right, so looking at the starters on offense, obviously Matt Ryan, Mike Davis. I don't think it's really close. You could say that about Calvin Ridley. I threw Russell Gage there just because he's kind of seen the most snaps of the rest of the guys there. Kyle Pitts, Hayden Hurst, I really think they're going to get the tight ends more involved. Keith Smith, the fullback as well. Jake Matthews, like I said, Jalen Mayfield, it'll be a real shame if he doesn't win that guard spot. You can make a case for Matt Gono. Matt Hennessy, like I'm pretty high on him, but I don't know if Drew Dahlman's really at that level, at that point where he'll be able to start his rookie season. Chris Lindstrom, I got Caleb McGarry there. I really think he could lose to Gono though. We'll see. It'll be interesting. That's just this is my hunch. And then on defense, like I said, I think we're gonna see more of the interior guys than when it comes to this front defensive line. Like Dante Fowler, I think Kaminsky is a guy that can line up over the tackle. Grady Jarrett, Davidson, In the interior, Marlin, it'd be nice to see how Marlin Davidson, how he'll kind of like be utilized in this front. Deion Jones, Oluokun as your linebackers. They may even opt to bring in Michael Walker on more often than not, than actually maybe just go with a 3-man front and then have 3 linebackers, so like a 3-3, or maybe they even opt to have like 6 defensive backs. So I'm to be honest, I think this team's gonna get railroaded up front in the run game. AJ Terrell, I got Fabian Monroe. I put Isaiah Oliver here. I think we really could see maybe Richie Grant slip into the slot position. I don't know, but then I put Harmon. I don't feel great about the second. I feel like it sucks. I made my predictions right after the Julio trade, and then the more I looked into this team, the less good I felt about this roster, and how this really feels like we might be at the beginning of a rebuild. Maybe they move on from Matt Ryan next year. Regardless, I made my predictions. And I'll feel great about it. I got them going 7-10. I really think this team more realistically could be a 5-win team. They might be worse than that. I think 7 is absolute ceiling. Yeah. I mean, they're playing in a tough division where, like, I really think the Saints and the Panthers might be better teams than the Falcons next year. The Buccaneers obviously return as Super Bowl champions. They do play the NFC least. It's a joke, but it's even hard to see them win some of those games. Like I got them losing to the Giants. I think the Giants are a better squad, maybe right now than the Falcons. The Giants just really, honestly, feel a quarterback away. Maybe another offensive lineman, but they got to also face the AFC East, which is stupid competitive with the Patriots, Dolphins, Bills. I mean, they do get a game against the Jets. That ain't half bad, though, right? Yeah, there it is. So it's not a hard schedule, but still, I don't think it's nothing to scoff at, because this squad just doesn't feel like I really think I'm predicting the ceiling here for the Falcons. Like, I went back, as anyone should do on their predictions, be like, man. Like, I found myself looking at some other teams that I have ranked lower, like, for instance, the Giants, the Panthers. And I'm like, I think these are better squads than the Falcons right now. It just didn't happen. It just ended up not going that way in the predictions. I think this is one I'll definitely be wrong about. I think 7-10 is too high, but we'll see. This definitely feels like a team that's in rebuild. They don't have a lot of their wide receiver depth is trash. Their offensive line is a work in progress still. Defensively, I don't think they have adequate pass rush. I think they got interesting parts. They need cornerback depth, but I think they got interesting parts there at linebacker and at safety. But I just don't feel good about it. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. That's it for the video. Go ahead and do that YouTube thing. It's always much appreciated, much obliged. And as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.